Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now, you needed to have watched the previous video for my explanation to make sense here. But you're asked to not use your calculator, rather use transformations and sketch each of the following, and as well as showing the asymptotes. Now, y equals e to the x minus 2. This minus 2 does not go with the x, which means it affects the y value. In our last graph, we drew Euler's function, and when we did, if you recall, you saw there was a horizontal asymptote on the x-axis, which is actually the line y equals 0. Well, to get this graph from our last graph from using transformations, what we're going to do is take the entire graph and shift it down 2 units. So the asymptote is going to shift down as well. So my new asymptote will be here, and the equation of that line will be y equals a negative 2. Now, another thing you should have remembered about the previous graph. The previous graph touched the y-axis at 1. Well, if I'm moving everything down 2 units, this time it's going to touch at 1 minus 2, which would be negative 1. So we have a graph that looks roughly like this. And what we did basically to get that graph is we took Euler's function from our previous graph and we subtracted 2. And that took the entire graph and it shifted it down. The domain would still be all reals, but the range would have shifted. Look what the y value gets close to. The graph gets close to negative 2 but never crosses it and goes up to infinity, so our range would go from negative 2 to infinity, but not including negative 2. Okay, the next graph we're supposed to graph is y equals e to the x minus 2 power. Now, this minus 2 definitely affects the x. So remember, when we were doing translations and shifts, when an x value is affected, you do just the opposite of what you would think you would do. So you would move the entire graph. Since the x value is affected, you're either going to move it to the left or right. With an x minus 2, you're going to move the entire graph 2 units to the right. So basically, your asymptote has not changed. Okay? So we still have the line, the x-axis, the equation of that line would be y equals 0. Our asymptote is still the same. Now it used to cross here at 1. Well, when we're shifting the graph over, alright, what's going to happen is that dot moves over, and we're doing this, let's see, we're doing this 2 spaces to the right, okay? So what's going to end up happening is what used to be there is now here. So instead of this being the ordered pair 0, 1, we're over here somewhere, and that's where the graph kicks in. So the y-intercept is different, but the domain and range are the same. The domain is all real numbers, and the range would be all numbers greater than 0, all reals, but not including 0. So basically this was a shift of Euler's function to the right 2 blocks. So the ordered pair 0, 1 right here, okay, got moved over. Alright, so we moved it over to like 2, 1. And then that shifted everything else along with it. Okay.